Hey Horde! Today I want to show you guys a little bit more about running safely in Horde space. At the moment I'm in GME, which at the time of the video's creation is our PvE area, or the area where it is at least a little bit safer to PvE than in 7RM. So let's go over some things. At the moment I'm in the Cormorant, which is a ship we use for belt riding, as you saw in our previous videos. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create something called a safe, which will basically be a place in space where we can warp to in panic. So let's do that right now. I'm basically just going to pick a random planet, which is hopefully pretty far away from me. Let's just warp to this at like 100 kilometers. And I'm going to wait until I'm in warp. And over here you'll see the distance. I'm at 25 AU at the moment. So when I'm somewhere in the middle, or like, it doesn't really matter that much, but when I'm at least one AU from where I'm warping to, I'm gonna hit Control B and create a bookmark. Now I did it a little bit too late because I was talking, but basically what that did, it made a bookmark in the middle of our warp trajectory. And when I now right click in space, I'll see on my personal locations, I will see a bookmark called Safe. Now, if I warp to here, I basically have a spot in space where no one can directly warp to. If I warp to a planet, for example, and someone would be following me in space, they can see that I'm going to the planet, and they can also warp to that planet. And of course, like, the distance you warp to might not be like guessable, but like it's still a lot riskier than warping to a safe. So this is now our safe. There's a lot more to do with safes, which I will not go into at the moment, but this will kind of be how you make one to get started. It is important to point out that while you are in a safe, that doesn't mean that you're truly safe. People can still warp to you, but they're gonna have to scan you down or have the safe bookmarked in order to do so. So it's generally best not to stay in a safe for very long. And if you are in a safe and someone does warp on top of you, never reuse that safe again, because smart players will bookmark it and they'll know where you're going. So at that point, you just right click it, remove it, and go to the next one. It's generally good practice to have multiple saves in a system so you can bounce around between them in hostile situations. One additional thing I want to cover for saves is that it doesn't really matter when you do Control B. I can do it right now. I can already give it a name, and I can just put it in here. And then I can start warping around. Let's go to planet 2. And when I press submit, that will determine where the place will be. So I can just chill until I find the location that I want, and then hit submit, and that was the location that I just did. So that's really important to understand, and I didn't really show it clearly the first time. So now we have that covered. Let's do something else as well. So the next thing we'll do is we'll go to a local chat window, and I kind of want to explain something about the local chat window. It looks like a chat window. It is a chat window, but it's a hell of a lot more. It's also an intel window. All the people in local, when you're in low sec, high sec, or null sec, are in space with you. So all these people could be your friends, could be your enemies, could be neutrals. And this is kind of awful to look at, right? Like, this won't really tell you anything. But when you click on these little 3 dudes over here, and you do show compact member list, suddenly it's a lot easier to see. And you can make this tiny. So what we'll do for now, since we're reading, we're gonna put this over here, make it nice and big so we can see everything, and there's that. Another thing we can do is we can click in here and we can press Ctrl A, and this will have everyone highlighted. If someone enters space right now, it will also it will show unhighlighted, which means we'll know exactly who comes into our space right now, which is really beneficial. Let's go over a little bit about the icons. So let's go over the icons for a moment. Blue and green is good, nothing to worry about. Red is something you want to worry about, although red and neutral isn't that big of a difference. Neutral, especially null-sec, is also something you should potentially be worried about. So people who don't have standings to Horde. And if you want to know what all these icons look like, one really good way to do it is go click on these three little lines, overview settings, and don't mess around with this if you don't know what you're doing. And over here we'll have all the icons. But what it comes down to is everyone that doesn't show as purple, which is in your fleet, green, or blue, or good standings, or, well, basically from here to here, is potentially someone you should be worried about. So keep that in mind. Over here we just saw someone entered space, and we can now easily see that he did that because everything else is still highlighted. And we also saw someone leave. So that gives you a lot of information. In nullsec, you should generally assume that if someone doesn't have standings to you, he's out to kill you. And that makes it a lot easier to know who's who than in highsec, because highsec there's so many players, and some of them might be trying to kill you, some of them might be trying to suicide gank you, but you'll never really know. And that's why a lot of players say that nullsec, after you have a feel for the game, feels a lot safer, and where the saying comes from, highsec is scary. Obviously, it isn't that black and white, but that is something to keep in mind. So the next thing we should absolutely do while raiding is join a standing fleet. And a standing fleet is basically a defense fleet where all the players that are currently active in space but are not actually on a fleet come together, fly together, fight together, and yeah. So let's do that. So I'm gonna go to our neocom, to social, to fleet, and then we have the fleet window. And these are all the fleets that are open to us at the moment. We want to search for something that is called GME standing, because we're in GME. GME is kind of the main central area, and then we have a few systems around it. And if you're in that area, you go to the GME standing. Say we're out to do some PvP in 7RM and we're flying around in that area, then you want to go to the 7RM standing. So we click on this thing and then join fleet. And then, yeah, sure, do we want to join fleet? Yes. Okay, so now we're in the fleet, and these are everyone that is in the fleet with us. Generally, every fleet has a message of the day, and now we're in the standing fleet. There is one more vital thing we need to do, however, and that's join Mumble. So I go to server, connect to the server that we set up, and we're gonna go down to fleets, and we're gonna have a look what fleets there are. The Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, Delta, Epsilon, Zulu commands are all for fleets that are going out. Then we got the standing fleet for 7RM. Well, we're not in 7RM at the moment, so that's not the one we're looking for. And then we got GME. So let's join that. And the reason why comms are really important is it allows you to easily communicate with the people in space with you. This way they can easily help you when you're in trouble, and you can also provide them with better intel than just fleet chat. So when you're able to, always make sure you're in standing fleet. It will keep you a lot safer because people will also generally tell you when hostile fleets are incoming or when people are in trouble and stuff like that. Hey dudes, say hello to YouTube. Hello YouTube.
Hello.
So with all of that set up, let's set up our final and maybe our most important window, called the D-scan window. And if you don't have that one, you want to go to scanners, this little icon over here, and then you want to click the directional scan. Or if you want to use the keybind, it's Alt-D. So Alt-D turns it on and off. You also want to make sure that when you have our overview installed, you click this thing, you make sure it's on dscan ships. So that's the overview you want. That filters your dscan results. And I don't really want to turn this into a course about dscanning, so I'll keep it really, really short. What dscanning does is it shows you ships near you in space that meet these two parameters, range and angle. We're gonna focus on the defensive dscanning, and we're gonna completely ignore the angle. Just make sure it's on 360 degrees. And say we're redding right now in a belt, and I want to know if I'm safe or not. Well, I'm gonna start at 14 AU, and as you can see, I have some people near me, so I don't really know if that's safe or not. So let's go bring it down a little bit, and we'll see this go down as well, right? So let's have a look. Let's keep it about, let's say, 10. Yeah. At this point, every time we press the scan button, we'll know what is in 10 AU of us. Now, why is this so important? Well, if you know what's close to you, you also know what is potentially going to kill you. So, say we have 3 neutrals in space right now, and one of these 3 could be this guy. So, if I would go down in range to 1 AU, I see, okay, there's no one within 1 AU, so I'm still pretty safe, I guess. So, what you can do is you can, once you have a baseline of what you consider safe, which, for example, this Tengu at 10 AU has been there for a while now, so I don't think he's a risk at the moment. I could be wrong, but I don't think he's a risk at the moment. So we'll basically just scan every few times, and this is gonna become a habit. And you can also bind the keybind to this. So basically, while reading, every so often I want to hit the D-scan. And when I get something new, I lower the D-scan amount, and I keep scanning. And if that ship comes closer, then that might mean that someone's warping to me. And if someone's trying to warp to me, that might mean that they're trying to kill me. So I would generally advise to go down into 1 AU, and if you still see something going, if you're in a tiny ship and you descan often, start making your way to your safe. Let's quickly look if I'm right about the keybinds for descanning. I believe they added that. Yeah. Default keybind is V. So every time I press V, it should update it. It is worth pointing out that there are ships that do not show up on your D-scan window, which are ships that are cloaked or recon ships. So you're never truly safe. So that the fact that D-scan doesn't show you enemies or potential enemies, so obviously D-scan also shows friendlies, doesn't necessarily mean you're safe, but it is generally a very good indication. Okay, so I'm in Warp to an asteroid belt right now, and we're gonna do some belt redding. Let's highlight our locals so we know who comes in. We have one neutral and local at the moment who could be in hostile. And once we land on grid, if we're not in trouble, there's actually no NPCs here, but that's okay. Let's just pretend that we're redding. It's gonna orbit something random. And I'm gonna find something. Okay, this is nice. 5 AU, there's nothing on D-scan, so anything that shows on D-scan could potentially be in hostile. So that's great. So I'm actually logged in with an alt right now, and I'm gonna warp to myself to pretend that I'm in hostile. So let's do that. So basically, I'm just doing my thing. Some new guys come in, but there's no risk, so we just select them all again. And I'm basically scanning right now. So another thing to point out is, oh, there we see someone on D-scan. Let's put it a little bit closer on 1 AU and he's still coming, so that means it's time to get out. And if I timed this right, we'll see him land on grid as well. That would be the hostile, and you're off, so he has no time to take off. One thing to point out is I used a rookie ship, or corvette as they use nowadays, which are really slow to travel. So the distance from 5 AU to 1 AU might actually not be enough if it's a fast ship, but you'll pick that up as you get more experience with defensive descanning. So I hope this was useful. This should at least give you a heads up when people are getting near to you. And again, this also shows friendlies. So sometimes you might actually warp out for a friendly, or you might not be in danger at all. But this will make your life in nullsec a lot safer. At the same time, what you will also pick up is you'll start to recognize ship names, and which ship names are used a lot for ganking. So, and for example, which ships are used a lot for raiding or mining. If a mining vessel is coming towards you in a mining belt, then there's less of a chance that that is an hostile. Sure, it could still be possible, but I would personally not warp out for that in a horde space. The final thing I want to cover is what to do when you're caught. I'm not going to demonstrate that because that's going to get the standing fleet all triggered. But basically, say I'm belt raiding, someone tackles me, and hostiles are around me, and I'm about to die. In a destroyer, that once people are on top of you, that generally means you're pretty dead. But what you will see a lot in standing fleet is that it also creates a lot of content, because it gives other people an opportunity to kill the people that are ganking. So the way we do this is we put W's in fleet. So we put a bunch of W's in fleet when we're in danger. We drag the system name to the channel so people know which system we're in. And we say how many ships. So 5 ships. And then we enter, and then backup can arrive. Now, why is this important? W's is basically the universal code for warp to me. The system is important because, one, if someone is next door and wants to come help you, they can right click and do set destination right away, making warping there a lot easier. And the 5 ships is really important as well, because if they're warping into 5 very organized ships, then a lot of the times people don't want to warp there. But say if it's only 1 ship and you also know the name, it's a Vexor, then that means if 10 people warp to you, then that dude is pretty much going to die. So providing good intel when putting W's in fleet is really important. Of course, it's also important to do it quick, but please don't get more people killed by doing this. So you use it with care and when you think it's the right situation. So just to wrap everything up, use your descan window to get an early warning on when people are warping to you. Use your local window to know when it is and when it isn't safe to raid. Spoilers, when there are this many neutrals, it's not safe to raid. So at that point, save up, and then from there, warp to the station or citadel. When you're tackled, use fleet chat. Be on mumble when you can, and provide good intel to your fleet mates. And all in all, you'll find yourself dying a hell of a lot less.